यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव हरे जय राधा जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जना वल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 राम जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य स्तोत्र श्री श्रीमद His Divine Grace अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शीला प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य शील हरिदास ठाकुर की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की श्री श्री राधा गोविंद देव की श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की श्री श्री गौनिताय की श्रीला प्रभुपाद की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। कृष्णे स्वधामोपगते धर्मज्ञानादिभिः सह कलौ नष्टदृशाम् एष पुराणार्कोऽधुनोदितः। Actually, I'm controlling it. Hare Krishna, we are reading from Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 6, entitled Brahma Satisfies Lord Shiva. Verse number 4. Tad akarnya vibhuh praha tejiyasi kritagasi क्षेमाय तत्र सा भूयान् न प्रायेण बुभूषताम् तद् आकर्ण्य विभुः प्राह तेजीयसि कृतागसि क्षेमाय तत्र सा भूयान् न प्रायेण बुभूषताम् तद् आकर्ण्य विभुः प्राह तेजीयसि कृतागसि क्षेमाय तत्र सा भूयान् न प्रायेण बुभूषताम् ताकर्ण विभुप्राह भूषताम् ताकर्ण विभुप्राह न प्रायेण बुभूषताम् ताकर्ण विभुप्राह तदाकर्ण्य विभुप्राह तेजीयसि कृतागसि क्षेमाय तत्र सा भूयान् न प्रायेण बुभूषताम् तदाकर्ण्य विभुप्राह तेजीयसि कृतागसि क्षेमाय तत्र सा भूयान् न प्रायेण बुभूषताम्. What word? That the events related by the demigods and the others. Akarnya, after hearing, Vibhuhu, Lord Brahma, Praha, replied, Tejiyasi, a great personality, Krita Agasi, has been offended. Kshemaya, for your happiness, Tatra, in that way, Sa, that, Bhuyatna, is not conducive. Prayena, generally. Bhubhushatam, desire to exist. Translation: when Lord Brahma heard everything from the demigods and the members who had attended the sacrifice, he replied, "You cannot be happy in executing a sacrifice if you blaspheme a great personality and thereby offend his lotus feet. You cannot have happiness in that way." Please repeat. When Lord Brahma heard everything from the demigods and the members who had attended the sacrifice, he replied, "You cannot be happy in executing a sacrifice if you blaspheme a great personality and thereby offend his lotus feet. You cannot have happiness in that way." Sri Prabhupada's purport, Sri Prabhupada ki. Lord Brahma explained to the demigods that although Daksha wanted to enjoy the results of fruitive sacrificial activities, it is not possible to enjoy when one offends a great personality like Lord Shiva. It was good for Daksha to have died in the fight because if he had lived, he would have committed such offenses at the lotus feet of great personalities again and again. According to Manu's law, when a person commits murder, punishment is beneficial for him because if he is not killed, he might commit more and more murders and therefore be entangled in his future lives for having killed so many persons. Therefore, the king's punishment of a murderer is appropriate. If those who are extremely offensive are killed by the grace of the Lord, that is good for them. In other words, Lord Brahma explained to the demigods that it was good for Daksha to have been killed. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroh Shriutapad Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. We'll just read the translation again. When Lord Brahma heard everything from the demigods and the members who had attended the sacrifice, he replied, "You cannot be happy in executing a sacrifice if you blaspheme a great personality and thereby offend his lotus feet. You cannot have happiness in that way." Before I begin, I would like to seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas, especially all the senior devotees who have come, Sri Prabhupada's disciples, and I beg for their mercy so that I can speak, I can be an instrument of what Sri Prabhupada wants to say here. We have been hearing this episode of Daksha offending Shiva, and of course, having also experiencing that, undergoing the consequence of Vaishnava Prad. So here Brahma is telling the demigods after seeing how Veerbhadra chopped off the head of Daksha, killing him. The demigods out of great fear they approach Brahma because Brahma is like GBC. So something goes wrong, Brahma is approached. So they all approach Brahma and they are asking what is to be done now. So Brahma is saying this is the worst way of conducting a sacrifice. Daksha had put up this sacrifice to please Lord Vishnu, of course, so that he can increase the population in this world more and more. But at the same time, Brahma is making it very clear when we want a good sacrifice, we want results as expected from a sacrifice, then we cannot offend a great devotee. That's when the sacrifice backfires. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks to Arjuna about sacrifices in the 4th chapter. He says in this world, if you want jnana, if you want to cultivate knowledge, first you have to perform sacrifice. And he says that those sacrifices first purify the heart. After mentioning all kinds of sacrifices, he says there are sacrifices for the brahmacharis of sense control, there are sacrifices of the grihasthas, there are sacrifices of material possessions, some people, that is charity, and like that he gives different kinds of sacrifices. Study of Vedic literature is also another sacrifice. And finally, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarve pyete yajna vido yajna kshapita kalmasha yajna shashta amrita bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam. He says, Sarve pyete yajna vido. That means, after knowing and performing the sacrifices, Sarve pyete yajna vido yajna kshapita kalmashaha. Anyone who performs the sacrifices, what is the result? The misgivings of the heart are eradicated. That means yajna kshapita kalmashaha. Kalmashaha means whatever is holding us in this material world. These things are destroyed. Yajna shishta amrita bhujo. Having obtained the remnants of the sacrifice, having tasted that remnant of sacrifice, one goes to the spiritual world. Yanti Brahma Sanatanam. He goes to the eternal realm. So this is the benefit of the sacrifice. Anyone who performs sacrifice according to Vedic rules and regulations, they get spiritual benefit. And even if Daksha is performing some karma kandik, a fruitive sacrifice, but still it is addressed to Lord Vishnu. But interestingly, did Lord Vishnu go to the yajna? No, isn't it? So he is performing a sacrifice to please Lord Vishnu. Previously, when Daksha for the first time offended Lord Shiva, that time he conducted the sacrifice to please Lord Brahma. This time it was done for pleasure of Vishnu. And now in the previous verse, I think it was mentioned, both did not go to the Daksha sacrifice. Because they knew nature of Daksha. Daksha had a nature of finding faults and even openly criticizing. So, therefore, even though he might have executed a sacrifice in an elaborate way, because this is what Satya Yuga. In Satya Yuga, it is not the sacrifice of today. In Satya Yuga, the sacrifices are very enormous. They're very grand. Probably gallons, hundreds and thousands of gallons of ghee is poured. And there's so many qualified brahmanas who are completely selfless, completely free of all malice in the heart. Such brahmanas are reciting the Vedic hymns. So having all these facilities, still the sacrifice was a failure. So in this world, whatever we do, we want to make sure it is not a failure. So Brahma is saying, if you want to succeed, you should know how to perform the sacrifice. See, in 4th chapter, when Krishna mentions the different yajnas, the different sacrifices, later on in the 10th chapter also, Krishna says, of all the yajnanam, japa yajnasmi. I am the japa yajna. So japa yajna, now what is the fruit of japa yajna? Japa yajna means chanting. What is the fruit? What do we get by chanting Hare Krishna? love of God. Even prior to that, purification of heart, isn't it? But if that is not done properly, then what do you get? You do not get love of God, isn't it? So, for example, the uh, obstacle for chanting of the holy name, what are they? The 10 offenses. So, offense in Sanskrit is aparadha. Aparadha means that which takes us away from Radha. Aparadha. And the first offense of the 10 offenses is Vaishnava Ninda. That means offense to a Vaishnava. So, in this way, you will find that we might perform the sacrifice, but if we are not careful to avoid offenses, then the sacrifice will not produce any result. So if we are investing time in chanting Hare Krishna, we're investing time in devotional service, but we are not careful to avoid offenses, then the same offense or the same sacrifice will not be of much use. And there's in Chaitanya Charitamrita there's a verse which says you can chant the holy name for hundreds and millions of lifetimes. You can perform hearing and chanting and worshipping the Lord for hundreds and thousands and millions of lifetimes. But if one is not careful enough to safeguard oneself against these offenses, especially Vaishnava Aparadha, Vaishnava Aparadha is the king of the offenses, then all that performance of devotional service is almost of no use. There's a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. What is the verse? What Ramana Prabhu said in the morning? Bahu Savana Kirtan. Then Tabut Pade Premada. That's the one. Yeah, that means Bahu Janma means you are spending lifetime after lifetime performing devotional service, but it yields no result. Why? Because it's contaminated with offense. So, if we want a successful sacrifice, we have to perform it without offense. So, in the purport, you will find, see, Lord Brahma is saying, he explained to the demigods that although Daksha wanted to enjoy the results of fruitive sacrificial activities, it is not possible to enjoy when one offends a great personality like Lord Shiva. And in Sanskrit, you can see, note the words. Teji Yasi means a great personality. Krita Agasi means an offense, he was offended. And Kshemaya means the well being. There's no well being for such a person, one who offends great personality. So, generally, for example, before I continue, in 10th canto, Srila Shukadev Goswami was asked by Parikshit when Shukadev Goswami talks about Krishna's pastime with the gopis. That time Parikshit Maharaj asked, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya dushkritam dharma samstarpanarthaya. Krishna descends to this world for establishing religion. He descends to this world for protecting the sadhus and for annihilating the miscreants. Then why is Krishna dancing with other men's wives and creating irreligion? This is Parikshit Maharaj asking Shukadev Goswami. After Shukadev Goswami has spoken about the Ras Leela. And then Shukadev Goswami says an important verse. Let me show it. Oh. Number 23. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, can you see this? Very small. Very small. Yeah. See Shuka Vacha. Dharmavyatikrammo drishtha ishvaranam cha sahasam. Teji yasam na doshaya vane sarva bhujo yata. Srila Shukadeva Goswami said, the status of powerful controllers is not harmed by any apparently audacious transgression of morality we may see in them, for they are just like fire, which devours everything fed into it and remains unpolluted. So, here in this verse, Lord Shiva is explained as Tejiyasi. Tejiyasi means one who is a very powerful personality. For such powerful personality, contamination doesn't affect them. And Shukadev Goswami explains just as fire is not affected by contamination. If fire comes in touch with any contamination, the contamination goes, but the fire remains. Similarly, the powerful people, powerful personalities also very much like fire. Even though they might come in touch with contamination, nothing happens to them. So therefore, one should not, even if found, or even if they can find faults, one should not do it with a great personality. So for Lord Shiva, Daksha's point was that Lord Shiva is, in the cremation grounds, associating with the hobgoblins, and so on and so forth. So here Brahma is saying, because he is such a great soul, you should neglect these contamination. For example, some people say, uh, so sometimes generally if we want to do something, we have a tendency to say, Srila Prabhupada said it. Or, once the episode of 7 Up happened, Srila Prabhupada drank a sip. And Prabhupada took it multiple times after that. His Grace Shrutakirti Prabhu was saying. And then the news spread across all temples like wildfire. And everyone, they ordered huge crates of 7 Up, thinking that this is sanctioned, this is bona fide because Prabhupada likes it. But then when Prabhupada got to know that all temple presidents are ordering 7 Up, crates of 7 Up for the sense gratification, he said, this is not required. Because they thought that since Prabhupada is drinking, we can also do it. Like you will find now, there are many sadhus in India, they also, take weed, and it is part of their sadhana to take weed, to do drugs, and they say because we are followers of Lord Shiva, we can do it. So, one great saintly person, Adi Shankaracharya, he saw that his followers were also doing the same. They were smoking, they were drinking, and they would say, because Lord Shiva did it, so we can also do it. So Shankaracharya was an incarnation of Shiva, and to teach them a lesson, he did something what they could not even imagine. He said, "Why are you guys trying to imitate the Supreme? Why are you trying to imitate Lord Shiva?" And they, so he, to show it to them, he went to what is that person called? Like a blacksmith. He had a molten lava because he works with machines, with iron and everything. So Adi Shankaracharya took a huge cup of this molten lava and drank it. And he said, now you want to imitate Shiva? So Shankaracharya is the incarnation of Shiva. So he said, okay, now you try to imitate this. Then all the followers understood. That means the great personalities cannot be imitated. That's the whole point. So Krishna is dancing with so many the wives of different men, but can he be imitated? No, he cannot be imitated. That's for pastime's sake. Why he cannot be imitated? Because he's a great personality. And not just the Supreme Lord, even his devotees, even the great sages. Like one pastime that comes to mind is once Krishna was with the gopis, and the gopis had to cross across Yamuna, I think to go back to home or to go to Mathura or something. They had to cross Yamuna. And that time, they asked Krishna for help. Krishna, please, we want to cross Yamuna, so give us a way to do it. And that time, the Supreme Lord told them that yes, you can do it by first you go to Yamuna, and once you're on the shore of Yamuna, you tell Yamuna, Krishna is a brahmachari. And then Yamuna will give the way. So the gopis were confused. I mean, how is Krishna a brahmachari? Because they know him very well, isn't it? So they didn't understand, and Krishna said, rest assured, everything will work out. So they went to the shore of Yamuna and they said, Krishna is a brahmachari. And Yamuna gave way. And they crossed the Yamuna. So they did their, I think they were selling milk products. They did their thing. And on the way back, again the Yamuna closed up. At that time, they met Durvasa Muni. And they requested Durvasa Muni, please help us cross Yamuna. And Durvasa Muni said, uh, hmm, yeah, and Durvasa Muni said that you have to say Durvasa is Upavasi. Upavasi means one who does a lot of fasting. Actually, Durvasa Muni in throughout the Vedic literature is known for going to different places and eating a lot. So, but now you have to say that Durvasa is a person who fasts a lot. So then Durvasa, the gopis were again confused. How is Durvasa Muni a person who is going to fast? How is because he eats a lot? But still they came. They came to Yamuna and said, Durvasa is Upavasi. That means he fasts a lot. Immediately Yamuna gave way. Then they came back to Krishna and asked, how does it work? I don't think you are a brahmachari. I don't think Durvasa Muni is a Upavasi. He does fasting. You hang out with wives of different men and he eats a lot. So how is this happening? And then Krishna said, Krishna, one of Krishna's devotees, they explained to the gopis that because Krishna is untouched by his whatever activity he does. If we touch another man's wife, we'll be put behind the bars. But Krishna is unaffected by karma, isn't it? So similarly, a great saint like Durvasa is eating, he is eating a lot, but he's not eating to satisfy belly like us. So therefore, it is said, Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vijnana na bujhai. Just by logical understanding, by analysis, we cannot understand a devotee. It's not possible. So similarly, Krishna, the Supreme Lord, cannot be understood, nor his devotee Durvasa can be understood. Like that it is said. So therefore, Tejiyasi means one who is a very powerful personality. A powerful personality should not be found faults with. In that, if one does like that, and like Daksha, even our sacrifice will be ruined. So that's the first point Srila Prabhupada says, that if we want to attain happiness in this world, or with whatever sacrifices we perform, we have to be very careful not to offend great personalities. We are also coming here together like devotees trying to practice Krishna consciousness, and the only obstacle to our practice is Vaishnava Prarabdha. And why does Vaishnava Prarabdha happen? You will see Daksha was very proud. Now you know the three categories of devotees. There's Kanishta, there's Madhyama, and there is Uttama. Kanishta is a very neophyte devotee. So Kanishta's tendency is he immediately goes directly to the Lord. He doesn't respect the devotees. There's Kanishta Adhikari, a neophyte devotee. Whereas Madhyama, he knows how to deal with different classes of people, including the Lord. With the Lord, he worships the Lord. With the devotees, he associates with them. With the innocent people, he preaches to them. And the envious, blasphemous people, he avoids them. As Madhyamadhikari. And Uttamadhikari, they only see Krishna everywhere. They're pure devotees. So usually, now Daksha, you can see, Daksha is such a neophyte devotee because he has respect for Vishnu, but not for his devotee. Isn't it? It's like you're telling someone, I like you very much, but I hate your dog. So then that person will not like you, isn't it? Sometimes I've seen the book distributors when they go on the street, they immediately, instead of talking directly to the person, they make the child happy. Because once the child is happy, immediately the parent is happy. But if you try to create a connection with the parent is not, they don't get connected, isn't it? So therefore, it is in English there's a saying, "Love me, love my dog." That means if you really love me, you also have to love people who are connected to me, or things those are related to me. Then you actually truly love me. Otherwise, you don't love me. isn't it? So for Daksha, because he was a neophyte, he could not appreciate the Vaishnavas. And now you finally understood how Daksha finally, I mean, later on it comes, Daksha finally gets a goat head because he did not have any intelligence to understand. So, therefore, for us, what should we do? On Kanishta platform, the society will always remain, as they say, fight, fight, neophyte. Mm. People will be quarreling for petty, petty issues on Kanishta platform. Therefore, we all have to make advancement, purify the heart and come to a platform called as Madhyama. Madhyama is what? Madhyama is the platform where we can deal with different levels of devotees according to their stature. Then Sri Prabhupada explains it was good for Daksha to have died in the fight. Why? Because if he would have lived, then he would have committed more and more offenses at the lotus feet of great personalities. And you will find when again in sixth canto it comes, when Daksha again takes birth, he again offends Narada Muni in sixth canto. So he has a strong tendency for finding faults. So wherever he is, first he offends Lord Shiva, then he offends Narada. So therefore, what if you see the root cause? The root cause is the pride of Daksha did not go down. Of course, later on, Daksha offers prayers to Lord Shiva. He understands his mistake, but the tendency is still strong. Yeah. Anyway, so what can we take out of this is how can we be careful? Having offended a devotee, or how to avoid offenses to a devotee. One way of avoiding offenses is cutting down useless talk, because it's through useless talk. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says everything starts through useless talk. He says useless talk leads to arguments, arguments lead to fault finding leads to blasphemy, blasphemy leads to fall down. Starts with useless talk. So when we are more focused on discussing about seva, about services, about Krishna Katha, Krishna Kirtan, this is very safe for a devotee, whereas simply to engage in mundane materialistic talk, one immediately comes down to platform of offending others. And you will find that you're casually talking to someone at the dining table, and in no time you can catch yourself talking something negative about others. You're imagining, you know, how did I even end up here talking about someone else? Yeah, because the tendency is very strong. And where does this tendency come from? The tendency comes from something called as pride. A new devotee initially get thinks that because when we join Krishna consciousness, there's great enthusiasm. Get up early, chant more rounds, and study Shastra nicely. And one is very enthusiastic. So in that enthusiasm, one feels that I am actually better than everyone else. Or look at that devotee sleeping in japa. Or look at that devotee who is, who is not very good at his services. But look at me, I'm the best here. So one feels like that when one is new. So when we take into materialistic outlook, when we see the materialistic aspect of devotees, then immediately there's offense. So first of all, what we can do is cut down on useless talk. Then immediately we can avoid Vaishnava Prad. And how do you cut down useless talk? You substitute with Krishna Katha. And usually, why does a devotee not? Why does he find difficult to engage in Krishna Katha? It's because there's no hearing, reading much going on. More of news, more of WhatsApp. So there's nothing to talk about really about Krishna. So one really more talks about mundane subject matter. And second is we can avoid digital prajalpa. Digital prajalpa means anything which is found online. We don't necessarily have to know about the past of a devotee. There's a saying: every saint has a past, every sinner has a future. So we don't really care. Once someone has come into Krishna consciousness, that's done. We don't have to really dig into someone else's past. And anything that is very difficult for us to handle, so we should not, we should be careful not to um, get to know about it. Like someone says, "Oh, do you know last week one devotee, he came and he poured the entire jug of Charnamrit in the trash. So you don't have to know, Prabhu, who is that devotee? Please tell me. You don't have to know it. Isn't it? Because whenever you look at his face, next time you'll know that this is the fool who threw Charnamrit in the trash. So those things we don't have to know. Sometimes those examples are used just so that we don't do the same mistake. So anything that we cannot handle, we don't have to know it. Anything that is not Krishna conscious, we don't have to know it. And the fourth point is we have to cultivate humility. Humility, tolerance. Because today in ISKCON, everyone wants to be a Kirtaniya. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given a formula for Kirtaniya. How can you be a Kirtaniya? Trinadapi sunechena, tarorapi sahishnuna, amanina, manadena, Kirtaniya sadaharihi. So that is if you want to be Kirtaniya, these are the four qualities. Even before you pick up Mridanga, harmonium, and Kartal, these are the things we have to cultivate. Humility. Humility to understand everyone else is better than me. That means just like once Dronacharya, the Guru, he called for two disciples, Yudhishthir and Duryodhan. He called for Yudhishthir and said, Yudhishthir, go around the kingdom and find out someone who is better than you. And he called for Duryodhan and said, Duryodhan, go around the kingdom and find someone who is lesser than you. After a long search, Yudhishthir came back and said, my dear Guru, I could not find anyone who is lower than me. I am the lowest. Everyone is better than me. And then Duryodhan came and he said, my dear Lord, my dear Guru, I could not find anyone who is better than me. I think I am the best here in the entire kingdom. Everyone has some or the other fault. That time Dronacharya said, see Yudhishthir, this is Duryodhan. You are better than this guy. And he told Duryodhan, Duryodhan, this is Yudhishthir and you are lesser than him. So people when they are afflicted with pride, they only see glories, their glories in everything and everyone as lesser. Isn't it? So therefore, what we have to cultivate is first humility. And second is tolerance. Tolerance means sometimes when we are serving together, sometimes natures don't match. Natures don't match usually because there's no chemistry match. Sometimes you don't like the way other person smiles, isn't it? Sometimes you don't like the way other person laughs. You don't like the way he eats. So these things we cannot do anything to avoid. These things have to be tolerated. That which cannot be cured has to be endured. We have to look beyond these small things. Just like in a marriage, there is husband and wife. Husband and wife can be together only if they learn to tolerate and cooperate. If we don't learn tolerance, then you just need a small spark and there'll be a forest fire. A forest fire of divorce, isn't it? So similarly, even Vaishnava association, we have to learn tolerance. Tolerance for these things which we cannot avoid. Some people just like to talk a lot and they take all your time. You sit with them at 1 p.m. and you end up speaking to them till 4 p.m. And you are thinking, my God, this fellow is not leaving me. How do I escape? Isn't it? So then over there you need some tolerance. Tolerance means, okay, you tell him, Prabhu, I have another meeting at 2 p.m. So thank you for association, you have to leave. Practical. So in this way, when we cultivate tolerance, then we can not be affected by small things, that small sparks of friction that comes when two devotees come together. And therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says tolerance like a tree, because even despite harsh weather, summer, winter, the tree just stands there, it's tolerating. And then giving respect to everyone around us. Even a new devotee, a new person who comes to the temple, we have to give respect. That means everyone deserves some prasadam. So we have prasadam ahead, in the reception area. Or if there's no prasadam there, we can get a plate from downstairs. We respect everyone who comes to Krishna's temple. And what to talk about just outside? Even inside, we have to deal with everyone with deeper respect. Generally, one feels that only seniors have to respect. Friends, we are just friends, and juniors I don't have to respect. No, respect has to be given to all the devotees. Anyone who is chanting Krishna's name, how many ever times, respect has to be given. And because I give respect to others, do I expect something in return? No, expect none in return. If you expect respect, that's when ego clashes happen, because you feel that that person is not giving the respect you are due, isn't it? So therefore, expect none in return. So this is a very powerful formula Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given. That is, be humble like a blade of grass, because even if someone tramples on grass, grass doesn't do anything. Humble like blade of grass, tolerant like a tree, respect to everyone, give respect to everyone, and expect none in return. In this way, the Vaishnava society can become very, very attractive. And then there will be something called as synergy. You all can cooperate and work together. So that when outside people come to the temple and see us working together, relishing Krishna consciousness, that time they will get that higher taste. They see there's something in this temple which is not in the material world. Mm. But if we also criticize others and commit offenses, new people who are coming to this temple, they find that this is also like material world. Here also people are finding faults. Here also people are talking behind others' backs. Here also there is criticism going on. Here is also there's so much of management oriented things happening. How is it this different from my other organization or from the material world? So people in the material world are looking for an alternative. So we want to give them an alternative. And what is that alternative? Ashri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ashri Prabhupada has given. What is that? The Vaishnava culture. And the Vaishnava culture is based on Vaishnava etiquettes, isn't it? So when we all behave like that and then perform Sankirtan, that Sankirtan is Anandambudhi Vardhanam. That means it will give so much of bliss. How much bliss? Ananda is bliss. How much? Ocean of bliss. Which never, it has no, you cannot draw a boundary on ocean of bliss. It's unlimited ocean of bliss. And what will happen to you? Will you just drink a drop of it? You will bathe in that ocean completely. Top of the head to the tip of the toe. You'll be bathing in that ocean of unending bliss. When? When we do not commit offenses. Otherwise, you can keep chanting Hare Krishna, and offending Vaishnavas. That Hare Krishna one will one day think, what am I doing with this Hare Krishna? Better I go back to material world. There's a lot of scope outside. And as Sri Prabhupada later on mentioned, actually for a devotee who, while being in the association of devotees, is offending Vaishnavas, just to prevent him from offending further and creating a hellish destination for himself, what does Krishna do? Krishna plants material desires in the hearts of his devotees. Just so that the material desires become strong and the devotee, in pursuance of his material desires, he quits the association for his own safety, isn't it? So therefore, and of course, when the devotee have to quit, he'll say, yeah, I got a better opportunity outside. I really miss you guys, but I gotta go. No, actually it is Krishna who has planted that material desire in the heart of his devotee. Why did he do that? Because while staying in the association, he didn't take real benefit. He was offending other Vaishnavas. So therefore, if we want taste in devotional service, we have to avoid this one thing called as Vaishnava Prad, the offense. And then, as Brahma is promising the demigods, he said, "You have executed a sacrifice, Allah, because you have executed a sacrifice while blaspheming a great personality, and therefore you cannot have happiness. But we have to execute sacrifice while respecting all Vaishnavas and worshipping the Supreme Lord. And then what is promised by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the ocean of unending bliss, is there, isn't it? And you don't have to wait till the time of death to experience it. in the process of bhakti, the means and the ends are the same. Even today, you can be bathing in the ocean of nectar. How many of you bathe in the ocean of nectar in the morning? No? Working on it. Chanting the holy name, participating in Sankirtan, this is all devotional service, this is all unending ocean of bliss. To the degree our heart is free from malice, envy, to that degree we experience it. The degree it's not, to that degree we find there is no there is no ocean of nectar here. Isn't it? So I'll pause here. We have 2 minutes. If anyone has any comment or question, you can ask.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for your class. Very nice, very well spoken. I did have one question. I just want to present like an alternative situation. You mentioned at one point in time how a lot of times someone will come to devotional service, they'll be very new, they'll be very enthusiastic, and they perform it very nicely. And then look at other devotees, they, these, why are they sleeping in japa? They're not taking their devotion seriously. And actually, that would be a wrong attitude on their part. So then on the other side, you know, um, because they don't see the devotees as transcendental. That's kind of what you said.
Yeah.
But on the other side, I also see there's a difficulty with devotees thinking that they're transcendental. And we think, oh, we're transcendental. We're all devotees. And then devotees actually, they stop taking devotional service seriously. And when new people come, they say, these people can't criticize us. We know what we're doing. But actually, they discourage the new people's enthusiasm. Someone might come with enthusiasm, and actually that enthusiasm gets drowned out, gets discouraged by the lack of enthusiasm among other devotees. So in that case, it's like another other side of things where people are taking this idea of Vaishnava Aparada, they're taking this idea, but they're kind of taking it too far to other extent. So what would you say to this problem?
Well, in a society, what is the question Ryan Prabhu asked was sometimes, as we say, the new people sometimes, in their enthusiasm, they might offend other devotees. And Ryan Prabhu's question was that, but what if sometimes other devotees are also behaving in a way that's dousing the enthusiasm of the new people? Isn't it true? That's what you asked.
Right.
And they justify it using this point that I'm a senior devotee, don't criticize. Yeah, well, there's always a protocol.
Mhm.
To the degree we are basing our actions on Vaishnava etiquettes, to that degree we are also safe and we all can be still together. For example, if a person who is quote unquote senior is not behaving in that way, then he is not an independent senior. Krishna is the only Swarat, independent, completely independent. Here, everyone is dependent on their authorities. So we can always approach their authority and let them know. There's always an authority, you will find that. There's no one just independently hanging around. So from our side, what we can do is we can let the authorities know, and this is how it's affecting me, and let the authorities take action. That's the protocol. But if we take matter into our own hands and raise our sleeves and get into action, then your devotional service and that person's devotional service will be ruined. It's not worth it. Okay. So, um, and generally, enthusiasm, spiritual enthusiasm, is internal. That means no external situation can douse it. To the degree it is doused by external situation, that means, I mean, I'm not talking about, like Russian preaching where they were tortured. That's different. I'm talking in general scenario. Some, like once in Boston, they had Sri Prabhupada Disappearance Day glorification going on. So when everyone was sharing, like, it was little, I felt it was little like dull atmosphere. Everyone was sharing very seriously and everything. I was thinking, where is all the, kirtan and enthusiasm? So I went to His Grace Muktavananda Prabhu, Prabhupada disciple. I said, Prabhuji, there is some dullness in the atmosphere. And he said, it's not dull, it's very grave, isn't it? That means there is some amount of seriousness there, isn't it? So I was thinking enthusiasm means it has to be a a lot of hustle bustle going around and a lot of kirtan and shouting. That's not enthusiasm. Enthusiasm means to serve. How much enthusiasm is there to serve? So real enthusiasm is internal, born from the bhakti shakti, and it cannot be doused by any external factors. Whereas externalized enthusiasm, that means it is just enthusiasm caught from the atmosphere. If it's not internalized, that can be doused. So anyway, the point is that there's always a protocol, and best that if we want to protect our devotional service, it has to be on the basis of Vaishnava etiquettes. And such a Vaishnava society said to be very civilized Vaishnava society. In contrast to that Vaishnava society where everyone gets an open say to say whatever they want. Like, say you are the temple president or and he's the GBC and he's a spiritual master. And I think I'm a great soul. I keep commenting on it. Oh, that spiritual master is like this, and this GBC, they should have consulted me before, for passing this policy, and you should also try to consider my opinion. This is very uncivilized. Civilized Vaishnava society, there is always something called as Maryada Vatikrama. Maryada Vatikrama means a Vaishnava is he's in a healthy way, but he's afraid that I should not offend a Vaishnava. That means if I am asked to speak Bhagavatam class, but then the senior devotee are visiting, I should rather go and request him, Prabhu, I am requested to speak, but it'll be nice if you can speak. This is Maryada Vatikrama. I mean, this is the following the principle of giving respect. So in any society, that fear should be there that I should not offend. And not offending is only one stage. Higher stages, I should be acting in a way that is pleasing to the higher to the devotees. You know, does that make sense? Several things to consider.
Yeah, that's a nice answer, and because in some ways, like our consciousness determines the situation,
Yeah,
So, like also when you have that consciousness, then the situation does become more civilized, even if it maybe wasn't. If you have that consciousness, that humility, then you'll actually manifest the spiritual atmosphere where maybe it was lacking actually.
yeah,
As you have the humility, maybe you'll manifest the spiritual atmosphere. On the other hand, though, I do sometimes think about that, about, also we're trying to live in a truthful way as devotees. And sometimes if we see this something that isn't up to the standard, maybe we don't go and criticize, but we should understand this is not up to the standard. And we should seek to try to raise it to a higher standard in some way. Not that we just ignore it, because then in the name of humility, people ignore um, untruth all the time, and they don't deal with a situation that potentially could needs to be dealt with, or that some action needs to be there, and things just like descend into the mode of ignorance, and nobody says anything about it, and people are just thinking, no, I'm humble, I don't want to do anything, I don't want to be that person that speaks up. But then a situation can very quickly descend into the mode of ignorance, and we saw that happen in ISKCON many times, where a temple became just became a place of abuse, became a place of corruption, and all the devotees just didn't say anything. Who was there to say, why is this happening like this? Why is this not like it's supposed to be in Chaitanya Charitamrita? We read about how devotees are supposed to be in the association is, but it's not like that. So then, so why did nobody say that back then in those
I
times?
think the real issue is, that
Yeah.
not speaking up is not the definition of humility. Probably, real humble person speaks up.
Mm,
So, but how do you speak? To whom do you address?
mm,
And what do you do about it? Um, Generally, in ISKCON, sometimes what happens is people come up with problems. Prabhu, I find this is the problem, that is the problem, this is the problem. Then the temple president asks, okay, can you do something about it? No, I'm too busy. Find out someone else. No, then you cannot do anything. If anyone has a problem, they should step up to say, Prabhu, I'm there with you to help you come to the solution.
Yeah.
I'm there with you. Then he says, okay, I need 10 more other guys like you. Then you should say, yes, I'll get 10 more guys.
Yeah.
Then the person at the top, he won't mind it. Generally, the problem, especially in the West, is there are no devotees. I mean, there are devotees, very less devotees in staying full time in the temple. So then, when we have to make a drastic change, it really takes a lot of manpower. So the whole point is, instead of pointing to the problem alone, if we can provide a solution and stick to that solution, be part of the solution, that is more helpful. So if any concerns are there, raising it to the right authority is pretty humble. It's not against humility.
Nice answer. Thank you, Prabhu.
Haribo. Thank you very much. Ganta Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
All right.
Prabhupada ki. I go Premanandi. Can you stop the live stream?